Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, your dreams in one hand, your fears in the other, and the world whispering, "Wait for the perfect moment." Seth Godin, the rebel thinker who's been shaking up how we see work and life, says that moment never comes. What you gonna do with that duck dares you to act now, because waiting is just another way to lose. Picture this. You're in a coffee shop, scrolling through your phone, feeling that itch, like you're meant for something bigger. You've got ideas, plans, maybe even a dream business or a project you've been tinkering with for years. But something's holding you back. You're waiting to get your ducks in a row, right? You tell yourself, I'll start when the time's perfect, when I'm ready, when I've got it all figured out. Sound familiar? Now, let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I knew a guy named Tom. Tom had this killer idea for a sustainable clothing brand. He spent months, years, researching fabrics, sketching designs, and saving up cash. He wanted everything to be perfect before launching. But the market shifted, fast fashion moved faster, and Tom? He's still tweaking his logo, waiting for that right moment. His ducks are in a row, but they're just sitting there, quacking. Seth Godin's Whatcha Gonna Do with That Duck is a wake-up call for people like Tom, and maybe for you. It's not a book you read cover to cover. It's a collection of Godin's sharpest blog posts from 2006 to 2012, packed with ideas that hit like a jolt of espresso. Godin doesn't just write, he provokes. He's like that friend who looks you in the eye and says, "Stop hiding. Do something." And in a world obsessed with perfection, his message is clear. Getting your ducks in a row is fine, but deciding what to do with them is what changes everything. Here's the soul of the book in one line. Stop waiting for permission and start making a dent in the universe. Godin argues that we're all trapped in a system, an industrial machine, that rewards playing it safe, following rules, and waiting for someone to tell us it's okay to act. But the real magic happens when you break free, take risks, and create something remarkable. Let's dive into 3 big ideas that capture the heart of this book, told through stories that'll stick with you. First, let's talk about organized bravery. Godin says, we're surrounded by people who are busy getting their ducks in a row, waiting for just the right moment. Getting your ducks in a row is a fine thing to do, but deciding what you are going to do with that duck is a far more important issue. Think about Sarah, a graphic designer I met at a workshop. She was talented, but she spent years freelancing for clients she didn't respect, waiting for the perfect project to showcase her skills. One day, she read Godin's blog and decided to stop waiting. She launched her own line of quirky, eco-friendly greeting cards. It wasn't perfect. Her first batch had typos, but people loved her boldness. Within a year, her cards were in local shops, and she was pitching to big retailers. Sarah didn't wait for permission. She chose bravery over perfection. What if you stopped waiting for the stars to align? Godin's point is that the world doesn't reward the cautious. It rewards those who act, even when it's messy. He's not saying to be reckless, but to organize your courage. Make a plan, sure, but don't let planning become procrastination. Take a step, even a small one, and see where it leads. Next, let's talk about choosing your customers, choosing your future. Godin believes you don't have to please everyone. In fact, you shouldn't. He writes, you have everything you need to build something far bigger than yourself. This hit me hard when I was starting a small podcast. I wanted everyone to listen, friends, families, strangers, even my old high school teachers. But trying to appeal to everyone made my episodes bland, like watered-down soup. Godin's advice? Pick your tribe. Focus on the people who get you, who share your values, and build something just for them. Take Lisa, a baker who loved crafting vegan desserts. She could have chased every customer in town, but she zeroed in on the vegan community. She started hosting pop-up events at yoga studios, sharing her story on Instagram, and building a loyal following. By choosing her customers, she didn't just sell cupcakes, she created a movement. Godin's insight here is powerful. When you focus on the right people, You don't just find success, you find meaning. What if you stopped trying to be everything to everyone? Imagine the freedom of creating for a specific group, pouring your heart into something that resonates deeply with them. That's how you build something bigger than yourself. Finally, let's talk about paying attention to the attention economy. Godin warns that in a world overflowing with information, attention is the scarcest resource. He pushes you to stand out, not by shouting louder, but by being remarkable. Think about the last time you scrolled through social media. What made you stop? Probably something unexpected, authentic, or bold. Godin calls this being a purple cow in a field of brown ones. Let me tell you about Mike, a guy who ran a tiny coffee shop in a crowded city. Every cafe was fighting for attention with flashy signs and cheap deals. Mike? He decided to be different. He started writing handwritten notes on every to-go cup. Little messages like, "You're gonna crush it today," or "Thanks for being you." Customers started sharing photos of their cups online, and soon, Mike's shop had a line out the door. He didn't have the biggest budget, but he captured attention by being human. Godin's challenge is this: in a noisy world, don't just add to the noise. Create something worth noticing. What if you could make someone pause, smile, or think twice? That's the kind of impact that lasts. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this sounds inspiring, but what's the catch? Well, Godin doesn't sugarcoat it. He says, no, everything is not going to be okay. Life is messy, and taking risks means you'll stumble. Some of his blog posts are like a splash of cold water. They're not meant to comfort, but to push you to act despite the uncertainty. This book isn't a step-by-step guide. It's a mindset shift. It's designed for dipping into not reading in one go. Open it to a random page, and you'll find a spark to get you moving. Let's circle back to Tom, our friend with the clothing brand. What if he'd taken Godin's advice? Maybe he'd have launched a small batch of shirts, tested the market, and learned from the feedback. Instead of waiting for perfection, he'd be building something real. And that's Godin's big lesson. Action beats hesitation every time. As he says in his Alt MBA course, ship something every 48 to 72 hours, even if it's not perfect. Progress, not perfection, is the goal. So, here's my challenge to you. Think of one thing you've been putting off. Maybe it's a blog post, a business idea, or even a conversation you've been avoiding. What's one small step you can take today to move it forward? Don't wait for all your ducks to line up. Decide what you're going to do with that duck and do it. What you're going to do with that duck is like a mentor in book form, tough, inspiring, and relentlessly honest. It's for anyone who's ever felt stuck, waiting for the right moment that never comes. Seth Godin doesn't just want you to read his words, he wants you to act on them. So, go out there and make something remarkable. The world's waiting. If this sparked something in you, hit that subscribe button and let's keep exploring ideas that push us to think bigger. What's one thing you're going to do with your duck? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear. Until next time, keep creating, keep moving, and don't let those ducks just sit there.